Well, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, MMO Bombers. It is Spunkify here, your host for the Free-to-Play Podcast, episode 83. Today is September 8th, 2013, and as always, I've got my compatriots here, my criminals in crime, or partners in crime, but I guess I would make you criminals anyways. Jason, Winter, and Kevin, how you guys doing this weekend?
I didn't do it. Nobody can prove anything.
You didn't shoot the sheriff?
But I did shoot the deputy.
All right, there, so that we've proven something guilty. Already criminals. All right, Kevin.
I like to think of myself as a villain for hire, not a criminal. I'm a little bit above that.
Wouldn't that be making you a mercenary, though?
Shh, don't tell people that.
I guess a villain for hire would only do jobs that are, like, bad. Like, kicking babies and stuff like that. Like, you wouldn't go save someone as a mercenary for hire.
I could also turn down things. I don't actually have to do all the jobs.
No, you have to kick babies. You have to kick babies.
No, I'm all up for kicking babies. That's fine. But
as long as you're well paid to kick babies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As long as
that's
the
what
money's
it
good.
In this economy, you have to be.
Yeah,
you can't just go kicking babies for $10 a pop. You know, you got to charge a little extra for that.
You don't make anything off that.
No, I myself
alone.
I just got back from PAX where I didn't kick babies, although there were quite a few babies in attendance, so I guess I could have. And I brought with me a lot of information for you guys to partake in, to talk about, to reminisce about, what have you. I didn't bring hepatitis C or any other kind of venereal disease from PAX, which is great. Usually you go there and you get some kind of super bug. No matter.
I've never gotten hepatitis from a convention, though. I'll tell you that much.
I've never gotten a venereal disease from
I was just trying to think immediately.
Not even Dragon Con.
Yeah. I was just trying to think of the most random diseases you could possibly get.
What do you do at these conferences that's even like a worry for you?
It's you know, all the high-fiving and then everybody's like coughing in your face and all that kind of stuff. You could get anything in an environment like that. You don't know. But I took
You have hepatitis C now. Awesome.
You can get it. I took a bunch of emergency and hand sanitizer just to make sure, because last time I went to E3 I did get sick and I didn't want to get sick at PAX. It's Seattle. Come on, Seattle's beautiful. But yeah, so we brought in some information. We're going to talk a lot about what we saw there, and we're going to sort of get into some other articles as well. So back from PAX, got some goodies for you guys, and let's get into it. Starting with our first article, one of the first things I saw at PAX was some new information, new details for Everquest's next landmark. Of course, that is the first of 2 sandbox MMOs that SOE, Sony Online Entertainment, are creating using their nifty Forge Light engine and some voxels and some cleverly placed blocks, I guess you could say. So the new details reveal sort of how players are going to progress as a character a little bit more. I was actually surprised by how much information they divulged so close to when they actually revealed everything. I had expected them to kind of do like a rehash of sorts. But they did add some new information, so players can basically... we know a little bit about, of course, how players will be able to sell templates. So they make something in Landmark, and then they're like, okay, this is a badass house. I want to sell this house design. Then they can make that into a template, sell the design. Someone can purchase the design, just contribute the materials, and then build that house. Now they're revealing that players can choose to also sell everything. So you can package up your entire plot of land and the castle on it and stuff and sell that. Or you can choose just to package up what's on the land, and someone can take that building and then plop it down somewhere else in the world, which is quite nice. Now, this sort of made me wonder, Jason, Kevin, would you guys ever consider a job in Landmark? Not Landmark. It is in Landmark, but in house rental / What would be the industry? What am I grasping for here?
Virtual real estate?
Virtual
construction, maybe even?
Yes.
No, I think I would actually give this a shot. I don't know. It really just depends on how long it would take me to build something. If it took me 2 hours to finish a building or 2 weeks, it would greatly influence how likely it would be for me to do this.
Well, I like the fact that it's not just, Minecraft, but in EverQuest form, I guess you could say. They're trying to really sort of make it more organic in how you construct things. And we'll talk a little bit about later what they added to sort of differentiate it and really sort of drive the point home that it is an MMO. But you mentioned how long it would take, Kevin. They showed a pretty complex little space, I guess you could say, cavern area that one player did in about 50 minutes. Not an artist or anything like that. It was simply, I think, a customer service representative, they said, who took a whole area and in 50 minutes added a lava pool and some like spiny, thorny trees, some rock outcroppings, and some like dripping lava and what have you. And you did that in 50 minutes. It was pretty impressive. It's, you know, they were sort of emphasizing that they wanted to use similar tools, if not the same tools that the developers were using, and give those to the players so they had the same access to that stuff. And it really showed in what players could create. So if you imagine having a lot of people actually contribute to one particular build, because that's sort of what Minecraft is known for, you know, getting a lot of people together to make something, you can only imagine sort of what fidelity players could get to. Speaking of getting players together, so before we knew that, you know, you could party up with a couple friends or a guild in order to contribute towards a build, but now they revealed a little bit of details about co-op, which is actually a nice system whereby players can just join up as a group, you know, spontaneously at any point, and they basically form their group, and they're able to then go out and build on whatever land they've pre-designated as the land they're building on, making it really easy to sort of collaboratively build things. And there's a built-in recorder, which allows players to record the build as it goes too. So Sony's really sort of thinking of everything in terms of offering as many options and features and bells and whistles as possible for Landmark, you know, in order for it to appeal to the type of player that's going to play it. Now, there is a nice sort of extra feature which I wanted to get you guys' opinion on, and that is the fact that everybody in EverQuest Landmark will have a class. You know, Sony, like I said, wanted Landmark to feel like an MMO, to be an MMO, not just a Minecraft server. So they added the Adventurer class, which will have its own abilities and whatnot, and will play a part in players' progressions in Landmark. All that stuff, the stats, the abilities, the look, can be transferred over into EverQuest Next, the other sandbox MMO, once that launches. So you can begin your character in Landmark if you so choose to do. If you choose to do so, you could move it over to Next once it goes live and carry over your progress, including your class, although they didn't really indicate what the class actually involves. So, Kevin, you mentioned that, you know, you may play it or not. It may not necessarily be. It's still like building eccentric. You know, it's still building focused. They sort of kept pushing that point across. Jason, what about you? Are you much of an architect? Would you build stuff in this? What are you thinking about the new features revealed?
I think my brother got all the architect genes in our family. He actually is one, like makes real buildings and whatever.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Would he play this? Does he play games?
No.
Oh. Maybe this is the game that'll start. Maybe this will be the start. Yeah.
Could be. His sons do though. But anyway.
Okay.
So yeah, it's something I'll definitely check out. It's like you said too. We're talking about how long it took to build something, and the fact that it was, like you said, just some customer service rep or something. Because I'd seen the videos too of them doing it, and you know when Dave Georgeson got up there and said, this did the time lapse of somebody building something. It said it took like 45 minutes. I was like, wow, that's amazing. Then I started thinking, well, who's taking 45 minutes to do this? Is it one of the developers that somebody played the game for 6 months? What kind of learning curve is there to use this sort of thing? But if it really is something that your average player can get into and make something kind of cool looking in about an hour, that'll be great. And I'm just amazed to think that they can actually do that with all the options they'll say they're going to have. I mean, the closest thing I think of is when I did the housing in Rift, which also has a lot of options for moving stuff around and shrinking stuff and this and everything. It looks like it's a lot less robust, does a whole lot less certainly than what Landmark does. And it still took me about an hour just to make kind of a little basic treehouse kind of thing in Rift. So the fact that you can make this huge not huge necessarily, but a really intricate landscape in about that same amount of time just boggles my mind.
I think they should rename Landmark to like Player Housing, the MMO. Like it's essentially what it is, like build everything everywhere at once.
Well, I'm interested too to know what the exploration of it is going to be. Obviously, we talk about it, having not just a Minecraft server. It's like its own world, its own centralized servers, I guess, like a typical MMO. And you're going to have to journey around, I guess, to find a lot of building materials. So I think just kind of the exploration and the going around part of it is also going to be really appealing, even if I don't build anything more than like an outhouse or whatever.
What I thought was pretty cool is that it randomizes where players actually spawn into the world. So it's not like you choose a race and then like that's where you spawn. You know, it's not appropriate to that. It's appropriate to landmarks. Get it? Landmarks. Yeah. Everybody sort of had that. I see what you're doing there. I see what you did there kind of expression when they said that. But these landmarks, they serve as basically starting points, and you can find what are called like mage spires or magic spires out in the world that allow you to transport yourself between landmarks. So you can go to any specific landmark you choose to go to, which may have friends there or what have you. But it still enforces the need to explore instead of just teleporting immediately to where your friends are. It's still an MMO. You still have to explore. You have to find resources. You have to dig down in the earth to find the exact things that you want. But they're still going to make it a little bit easier. There's parkour system that they showed an updated version of. It now has more twists and spins. I think it actually has more twists and parkour in it than Age of Wushu does. I'm not even joking. There are so many spins and those jumps now. Yeah, wait till you see the video. It's quite impressive what they've added in just a few short weeks. It looks kind of like the Matrix, as they jump around doing all kind of twists. But besides that, they also have mounts, so there will be mounts in the game. You'll be able to run around. And the world is pretty huge.
Now, do you transfer the mounts to the real game?
That would be interesting.
That's going to be interesting.
That is the real question, because mounts I think will do a lot more as far as travel than parkour. Parkour will be more about like hey, we made this really cool building or whatever that you can jump around through. But as far as getting from point A to point B, you're going to want a mount.
Man, the parkour system actually makes me think that players are going to use the ability to build parkour courses.
Oh, I will. I will. Yeah.
That's a good idea, and I'm sure the developers thought about that when they were creating it. People were mentioning that some of the parkour in the original video looked a little bit stiff, and I mentioned that, and they said, of course, it's still in progress. They are tweaking that, and they do agree. So for those of you complaining about animations, keep in mind that's like pre-alpha right there. So come on, give them some slack. All right, so yeah, EverQuest Next Landmark still looking great. Really looking forward to finding out what's next. It's supposedly going to come out this year, which they have 3 months, so they need to get on that, I guess. They've got a lot to do in 3 months, I suppose. But all right,
it's actually just done and ready to go, and they're just messing with us.
Yeah, right. They're just like, oh, it's this little information. They're like, oh, look at all the progress we made in like a week, and in reality, it's already been like that for like months. It's just to make everybody feel good about themselves when they're like, oh, look how good they're doing. Splash Damage was also at PAX. And for those of you who don't know, Splash Damage, of course, created several iconic shooters. Notably, they created Wolfenstein Enemy Territory, a very prominent competitive multiplayer shooter that uses team-based gameplay. It's free to play. Players still play it. It's a very old game from like 2003 or 2, but I played it a ton in college. It was great. And so their latest game, Extraction, is essentially sort of like Wolfenstein or Quake Wars if you played that, or Brink to some extent, although not quite as bad as Brink. And I got to get some hands-on time with it, which is quite nice. I was a big fan of some of Splash Damage's earlier work. Now, Jason, Kevin, have either of you played any of Splash Damage's games?
I played Wolfenstein for a while in college as well.
Alright, so there, Kevin. You and I both know of the game. I actually started playing it, I think, in high school and then like carried it over. We had a group that played all the way up through college. And Jason, what about you?
I played the original Wolfenstein in college.
Oh, the original Wolfenstein. Man, that is...
I remember when that came out. Boy, that was the height of...
That was a good game. That was a great game. So did you... I take it... Splash Damage...
not the updated things. Not so much.
No. Have you played Splash Damage's single-player games?
Not so much.
Not like Doom 3 and stuff like that?
Oh, did they do Doom 3?
I think... Did they do Doom 3? Or is it Quake 3 that they did? I think they did Quake 3. Let's see here.
Well, I played them both, so it doesn't really matter. I think it was Quake, though.
Splash Damage made... I'm looking at it right now. They made Doom... No, they did make Doom 3.
Okay.
Multiplayer content, apparently. They did the multiplayer content. I see what happened. Okay. So, yeah, they did work on a portion of it. Mainly, though, they've been focused on multiplayer content. So, yeah, Extraction features class system. You basically can choose a class. Each class has their own access to certain weapon types and abilities, and these abilities have cooldowns. And you're all basically trying to complete timed objective modes. So, in the case of the demo that I got to play, it was hacking a train station terminal and then going in and planting C4 into a train car so that it would blow up, fall over in a high-speed train that was going through the city. It would hit it, crash, and spell credits. CREDITS. There you go. See, that was a joke.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. Spill credits all over the floor. So there's an attacker and a defender, and they swap sides, and it's time. So the person who does it the fastest ends up being the victor. Now, the first person who actually does the attacking also sets the time. So if it takes 8 minutes for them to do this first segment, the next attackers will have 8 minutes to do so again. And there's some nice things that I really liked about it, particularly the fact that there wasn't like grenades. Like, that's a big thing that I think people weren't expecting, is the fact that there are no grenades in the normal sense of grenades. Like, everybody has a grenade they can throw to do AoE clearing. It's more reliant on gunplay. In fact, the only grenade that I witnessed, there were 2 explosives, well, 3 technically explosives that I witnessed. One of them was a concussion grenade. This sort of just, blurred your vision, if you will. And that was sort of like the main grenade that you had access to. And then another thing was a proximity mine, allow you to do some defensive placements. And then the last one was an artillery strike, which is something familiar from Wolfenstein Enemy Territory if you played it. We threw it down a little beacon, and then an artillery strike came in. So you really basically had to go into rooms with your guns blazing in order for you to clear them out, because you didn't really have effective AoE to sort of just throw in a room and willy-nilly kill people without even going in there. So it was a lot of focus on gunplay, and the gunplay was actually fairly fast. Characters move fairly fast. There was iron sights, and the classes ranged from the typical sniper and heavy machine gun character to a little less typical. You had the character which was a hacker. She could hack points faster, basically complete objectives faster. She put down the mine. And then you had the assault rifle guys, which provided ammo. That's one thing. Health and ammo don't really come in spades within Extraction, so everybody has to rely on a medic to heal them or revive them, or a sort of engineer slash assault guy to provide them ammo. Now, Jason, Kevin, are you guys both into sort of cooperative shooters? I would assume so. Both of you play PlanetSide too.
Yeah. The frustrating thing about co-op shooters is it's really your experience can really swing dependent on how your teammates are. So, I mean, that's kind of what always drew me to the solo lone wolf style shooters, because you're responsible for how bad you are or how good you are. Versus if you're someone who's really, really good, but the rest of your team just doesn't do what they're supposed to, you can get trounced.
And see, I'm the guy who's
to me.
I'm the guy who's usually bad, so I like team-based shooters.
You like me carrying you?
Because I like to be carried, yeah, quite a bit. Or usually I'll play like a medic or something like that, so I know I can play a support role where I don't have to worry about being the guy who's headshotting everybody. And in fact, they said they have 20 classes planned at launch.
Mm-hmm.
So I won't be just I probably might still be just a support guy, but they probably got 4 or 5 different support. The medic and the engineer already, so there's probably going to be a few more that you can get into. There'll definitely be something you like.
Yeah, there's bound to be a class that appeals to your style of play, regardless of if you're a lone wolf or if you're a team-based player. There's some class. I mean, even the the sniper, that's sort of a lone wolf, right? You're not really. It has a heartbeat sensor ability, which allows you to shoot a general area and sort of provide recon of who is in that area. So even if you're off on your own, you still can help your team out if that's your style of play.
Now here's hoping that they can actually keep those classes balanced. And it's not
that's
just
the thing. 20
6
classes,
of them are good and the other 14 suck or something.
20 classes to balance, with some classes having multiple abilities.
I feel like there's going to be a lot of layover between. There's going to be shared abilities among 2 to 3 different classes. But some classes might just be a different mix and match of said abilities. So you'll see. No,
they're all going to be different.
All completely unique? Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. I sat down with them, and we actually talked a lot about balance, because that was a big thing that I was worried about, is how do you balance 20 classes? I'm a big competitive shooter fan. I used to play shooters competitively, and that is something that I always think about. Because keep in mind, each one of these classes, not only do they have access to abilities, but they can swap out their weapons as well. They can get new weapons to put in. Which means that not only are you balancing a class with a certain type of ability, you're balancing that class with the idea that you can use multiple types of weapons with it as well. But they all sort of fall into a type or style of weapon, I think. So for example, the hacker engineer girl, she had a shotgun, and as far as I knew, she would only use shotgun type weapons, although everybody had access to sort of a machine gun pistol. But splash damage, we sat down, we talked about balance, And in regards to the classes, Splash has mentioned that they have a particular system in place that the owner, the sort of CEO, the founder of Splash Damage, Paul Wedgwood, he actually sort of started this side company which provides the software to monitor everything about an FPS and sort of break down. You kind of saw a little bit of the presentation, I think, in the earlier videos when the game was called Dirty Bomb, where it talked about where certain classes or everybody would die on areas of the map, how much damage they would do, you know, all that kind of stuff, all those statistics. And he says that they've been actually using these statistics to hone the game for over a year now. So the game's been in some type of beta, they said, with hardcore players for over a year. So it felt surprisingly balanced for those 5 classes. Granted, those are probably the most balanced 5 classes, which is why they're showing them off. But it certainly felt fairly polished, and I would expect an open beta, or at least like a prolific closed beta by the end of the year, no doubt. Now, a curious thing that sort of doesn't have to do at all with gameplay, at least not directly, is the payment system. A lot of people were worried about Nexon being the publisher. That was recently announced, but that was like the first thing they addressed, was the fact that Nexon hasn't even discussed payment with Splash Damage yet. They just wanted Splash Damage to completely focus on making the best game possible. Jason, I think you saw a quote on the website that you wanted to share.
Yeah, one of their big talking points on the Extraction website. It says, "No kill is cheap, no win is paid for. The most valuable thing in this truly free-to-play shooter is talent. Whether you're in world-class competition or a quick firefight, it's your skill that brings the kill." So, probably not going for any sort of pay-to-win model.
Yeah. They mentioned that, you know, I sat down with them for something like an hour after the match. Like, really sat down with them. They asked me all kinds of questions about the game, what I felt like it was good, what was bad, and we talked a lot about how were they going to, you know, sort of put this behind a pay gate, and it sounded like they weren't ready to give specifics, but it sounded like they were just thinking cosmetic stuff and experience boosts and stuff like that. They mentioned that none of the weapons would be behind a pay gate, so you wouldn't have to pay to unlock a weapon continuously or to, you know, even get a weapon. Weapons would just be unlocked sort of like via experience, is the way that they were describing it. So, you know, you play a class, you get that. That's what we were talking about as like potential routes. One suggestion, they actually took one of my suggestions and they're going to implement it in the game. And I'll tell you what the suggestion is, so you guys can keep in mind that Spunkify, I'm a budding designer, okay?
Very humble too. Very humble.
Yes. Just keep in mind, I gotta have my like 2 seconds in the spotlight, right? So when you kill someone in Extraction, they don't completely die at first. They go down to a down state, and in that down state, they can't do anything, but they can be revived. After a few seconds, they either suicide or they respawn. Now, it just says you kill them when you shoot them originally, in the version I played. And I said that, hey, you know, it might be sort of irritating that you think you killed someone comes up behind you, revives the guy, and suddenly he's back in the fight. He goes after you and kills you. So I suggested that they have it go into a downed plus 50 state of experience, whatever, and then when they get killed, as in they die off completely, and then it gives you the confirmation that they have completely died. And he said, yeah, that's a really great idea. So if you see that in the game, just know that I suggested that.
And if we don't see it, we'll know they said, after the meeting, they said, this guy doesn't know anything. Just toss out the notes.
Yeah, just all the notes. Just throw them all out. They
completely
lied to my face.
What was his name again? Spunkify? No, that guy's trash.
That guy's trash. No, complete. Hey, we won the game we played. When I played with the CEO of Nexon, we won our game of Extraction. And I want to say that it was because it was also the CEO of Nexon and he'd been playing the game a lot. But surprisingly, he was younger than I expected. He's like 33. He's the CEO of North American Nexon. Man, that guy, he's got his career going for him. But finally, one of the last sort of free-to-play games that we talked about, I saw rather at PAX Prime, has to be Strife, the new MOBA from S2 Games, their second MOBA.
MOBA, really?
Another MOBA. You know, it's kind of like a ritual for PAX to get like a new MOBA every year. You realize that?
It's a ritual for us to talk about a new MOBA every week on this show.
It is a ritual.
Pretty much, yep.
Otherwise, like, the demons from hell come out of the ground. Like, we have to, like, the sprinklers start shooting blood, and, like, we have, like, gnomes coming out of our swimming pools and what have you.
We have a swimming pool?
You guys, do you know the reference?
Yeah.
Somebody will know the reference in the comment. Jason doesn't know the reference, and I'm sorry, Jason. It's like a different age generation.
Yeah. We'll go with that.
It's stuff that we watch that involves blood coming out of sprinklers. And people, I guess, eating a lot of candy would be how you say it. But Strife, yeah. Strife. What is Strife about? Strife is about strife. No, it's, there's strife in Strife. There could be strife in Strife. I don't know.
I have a feeling that there's lanes. Tell me I'm wrong.
There's lanes, yes.
Minions?
There's minions, too. And I think there's combat last time I checked as well.
There's no wards, though, right?
No wards. No wards in Strife. So Strife, second MOBA from S2 Games. Of course, their first one was Hawken. And this one is, like, all about removing toxicity. Like, this is, like, I don't know.
Anti-League of Legends?
Anti-League... what? No, League... Okay, so they actually mentioned League of Legends. They said that while League of Legends was reactive to the negative and toxic behavior, and so far they've been pretty effective about it, and they want to be proactive. So they are putting in things in place to counter it from the get-go. One of which is the sharing of gold, which, Jason, I'm kind of curious, from what it sounds like, Strife really would appeal to someone like you, or appeal to someone, I should say, that isn't really big into MOBAs, but likes the idea of MOBAs. Mainly isn't into them maybe because of the curve of skill and not wanting to have to, like, endure getting, your face kicked in for a large period of time before you, get a hang of it. And those are all valid, concerns and reasons not to play a MOBA. But Strife really tries to lessen the curve and implement features like the gold sharing, which makes it easier for players to generate gold, but still awards skill. Because in order for gold to be split among players, someone has to get a last hit, and half of that last hit goes to the player, and the other half automatically either goes to a secondary person in the lane, or is split evenly amongst everybody in the team. So even if you're a support or just a terrible farmer, you'll be getting gold in some form or another, and you'll be constantly be able to get new items. Now, Jason, you mentioned that you sort of looked at, we have an article up for all of these games, by the way, from PAX on MMOBomb.com. I would suggest if you want to learn more about each of them, you look at the respective articles. Jason, you mentioned you looked at the article for Strife, and you looked at some of the different sort of features available with it. What sort of feature or design sort of stood out to you the most, would you have to say?
I'm just going to go back and talk a little about the last hitting thing, and I still don't like it. I still don't.
You don't like it?
I don't get last hitting, I guess would be my way of putting it, because I guess I come from the MMO standpoint of things, where if I've got my 5-man group, the guy who does the most DPS doesn't get more experience or get more gold. It's part of the group. You're part of the team. If I'm playing a MOBA and I see a bad guy or whatever, I'm going to hit him. I'm going to try to kill him. I don't want to feel like I'm making some great faux pas because I'm hitting him when someone else should be. That I don't see how making it this half thing is going to really help the toxicity that they talk about as much. Well, I mean, it's going to reduce it a little bit maybe, but you're still going to be, I got the last hit, you wanted to, and I'm going to get more gold than you, and now you're going to be pissed at me.
No. Okay. No. I'll jump in here because on League of Legends, my biggest role that I play is support, and basically my whole thing is to make sure that the bottom lane, that the champion on their thing gets a lot of gold, and I don't steal it. So one of the things that they do is they last hit the minions. It means they do the last damage, the lethal amount of damage to kill them, right? Now, if at any point you last hit a minion while your carry is in lane with you, they get pissed. I mean, I've had a guy, I accidentally spammed an ability which triggered damage to nearby minions, and I last hit one of his dudes. He spent the next 20 minutes of the match cussing me out over the all chat.
And they're not going to cuss you out when you accidentally last hit here and get, say, 100 gold instead of 50?
I think you're getting confused, Jason. So,
I know what last hitting is. I'm just saying.
No.
But it's still a deal.
Jason's so touchy about last hitting. Look at him. Jason, the last hitting, how it works basically in Strife is a minion's worth 70 gold, right? When you attack that minion, so a normal minion in like League of Legends is worth something like 35 gold or something, like about half of that, right? So these are worth 70. When you last hit a minion, no matter what, as the last hitter, you are getting 35 gold. No matter if someone is in your lane or if no one is in your lane. The other 35 gold gets split between the people in your team if you're alone, or it gets automatically sent to the other lane mates if you have, say, a support and you're playing a carry. So if you think about it, if you're the last hitter and you get the last hit on a minion, just act like the other 35 gold doesn't exist. You never see that 35 gold. You get the gold that you get from last hitting, and all the other gold that gets generated off of that last hit gets distributed based on those rules. And what this does provide is this provides supports and tanks a way to get extra gold without them stealing the last hits, or competing would be a better way to say, because you would compete for a last hit between two players for last hits and still get gold, still be able to get items, still feel like they're contributing to the team and not being bored out of the mind just sitting in brush.
And for someone like me playing support, if I'm in the same lane as a carry, it doesn't actually matter who does last hit. We'll actually both get the same amount of gold. So if I last hit a minion on accident, instead of me getting all the gold and him getting none, we each get the exact same amount as if he last hit it and I didn't. Which means I'm no longer stealing gold from him. We're just both making sure that the gold is, we both get the gold.
It's a cooperative team.
Does he get more gold if you're not in the lane?
No.
No, he gets the same amount.
Same amount. Okay, well then that's all right. That might help. That said, that alone is not the only source of toxicity in League of Legends.
Oh, definitely not.
Oh,
definitely not.
No, I think dying in general is always a sore point in games like League of Legends or Dota, because dying definitely does snowball the other team. Strife does implement the sort of familiar League of Legends style diminishing return, whereby if someone continuously dies, it provides reduced gold. That's something Dota doesn't. So some people may find that to be a little bit easier, a little bit more forgiving in that respect. And plus, since everybody gets gold distributed, even the worst player on your team at least can get some items and continuously progress, even if he had a really rough early game. Because if everybody else does well, I mean, how many times have you had it where like two people on your team have done terrible in a MOBA, but everybody else has done great, and you just wish those people would have like a couple of items so that they could just contribute a little bit of damage in a team fight? Like, that's sort of the way that this cooperative gold sharing should help that scenario, and it would reduce some toxicity just because of the fact that people could contribute more. There's other things as well. Removing boots from the actual item slots. I don't know why it took MOBAs to do this so long. Like, boots are just kind of a thing everybody should have. Whether or not you choose different types of boots is a given, but come on, who doesn't want to buy boots eventually? What build have you seen that doesn't require boots?
Gotta have shoes.
You do gotta have shoes.
Gotta be the shoes.
I've seen Aramis without boots before.
That just doesn't seem smart.
I don't know, he spammed his Q a lot, so...
Oh, okay. Professional Aramis. Spamming the Q. We got this. Yeah.
I don't know. That's about it. I mean, and I wouldn't even say that's good. I've seen that. So.
You've seen it. Okay, you've seen it. So you're just saying that you've witnessed that it's happened before. I got you. So that they removed that. Another nice thing is the fact that they put any activatable items that you have once you buy it, the actual action or icon to trigger the action becomes one of your hotbar skills. So you see it on your hotbar. It's much more visible, easier for you to know that you have something that you can trigger. And then there's a giant gorilla that you can summon that just charges down a lane called Krytos. Not Kratos, Krytos. Who doesn't like giant gorillas?
Obviously S2 does, because don't they have one on the cover of...
Yeah, they have to have a gorilla in every game that they have, don't they?
Yep.
What was I forget the gorilla's name from Han. It was like Kong or something like that. Or it was Kongor. That's what it was. Kongor. Yeah. So they have Kongor, now they have Krytos. They both have to start with like a K, apparently. So I mean, overall, the gameplay is different than League of Legends in the sense that it has different mechanics, but it isn't incredibly different in the sense that there's still brush, there's no last hitting, still more of a focus on the actual fights using abilities. There does seem to be at least with the characters that were available at PAX, a less of a focus on CC, so more damage, less CC, which means that players can get away a little bit more slippery, which may or may not translate into team fights that may make people feel a little bit more robbed because it's harder to lock people down. But again, all we got to do was play against bots, so I don't really know how well that can translate and be, interpreted as actual gameplay, because bots can do really dumb things at times.
And something else I'm reading is that you don't have to go back to your base to shop.
No, you don't.
Wow,
Everybody has a
huge.
courier. Everybody has a courier in the game. You don't have to buy it either. You just get it.
Oh yeah, it's an indestructible courier too, huh?
Yeah, you don't have to kill. It can't be killed. It automatically will bring gear just for you, and you don't even have to go back to base to heal. You can kind of just stay out of combat, and you'll get increased health and mana regeneration. That being said, you can still go back if necessary, and sometimes you'll want to if you want to get healed up a lot faster. But you will get increased regeneration outside of combat. So basically, they're just making it to where they want you to be in lane as much as possible. But honestly, that can probably get frustrating after a while, because the abilities themselves scale like League of Legends, where the more power you get or attack damage, the more your abilities do. It's not like Dota, where it's like a set amount where you're really strong early on and you kind of taper off if you play like an intelligence hero. In fact, all of the heroes themselves can be scaled and played many different ways, they said, much like League of Legends. So there wasn't like a specific tank character. A character can be played tanky, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's his role. They mentioned that the carry supports were actually a pretty common thing, where the supports would just keep getting, like power boosting items, providing, additional supportive abilities and, stronger supportive abilities rather, while also dishing out damage. So things like that to look forward to. It just kind of seems like it's going to be an all-out brawl, with just people trying to kill each other. Otherwise, they're going to come back at nearly full health, which I don't know if I'm really a huge fan of that. Kind of makes it hard to push people out of lanes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something you'll just have to try and find out, see how long it takes you to adjust to a different style. Go figure, trying to do something actually a little different, and we're like, oh, but that's not how a MOBA is. Yeah,
See, but that's the thing. I think the art style is actually pretty nice for Strife. It's a new engine. It's not the Han engine. It's got a really clean and clear picture of what it wants to go for. It's sort of like they mentioned it as like a dark Pixar sort of style of play, and they have some interesting mechanics, but I just feel like people will look at it like, oh, it's tri-lane, it's pretty much like a normal MOBA, and it's not. There are some different elements to it, but that's just sort of how the industry and the community reacts to MOBAs that look so similar to things that they already play and find enjoyment in. So who does this MOBA try to find an audience for?
Yeah, it's really weird too, considering that you wonder if they might almost be splitting their player base a little bit, because they still have a decent number of people probably playing Han. So, did you actually hurt yourself a little bit?
Well, it looks like from evaluating what Strife is, it looks like what they're trying to do is Han will still be their hardcore MOBA for those who want to still play Han, and Strife actually looks like it's trying to go even beneath League of Legends in terms of difficulty. There's no wards. So there's just observer towers, which you go up to and touch for 30 seconds. We already mentioned the individual couriers, the healing out of lanes. They're really trying to make everything more streamlined and, honed and focused, so that players can just focus on doing damage and, and buffing up their characters and what have you. Which, I can kind of see people who, like I mentioned before, don't really think League of Legends or Dota is the right for them. But they still want to see what this whole MOBA thing's about. Maybe that's what Strife can sort of, try to shoot for. But even if they're trying to aim for an audience which is more casual, they're inevitably still going to compete against the bigger guys, just because if someone likes a MOBA, chances are they already got a MOBA of choice. Mm-hmm. This is really just trying to go for people who maybe don't play MOBAs or are just tired of how difficult, quote-unquote, League of Legends or Dota is for them. Kevin, were you saying something?
Well, yeah, for me, it's not even so much how difficult it is, it's just how frustrating you are with the toxicity. If this is a game that's so focused on eliminating that, it's worth a look into just to see if it just makes it a more enjoyable experience.
Yeah, for sure. So
I'm less convinced. I'm less convinced about the reducing toxicity, if that's the only one element there is. But I am intrigued by the notion that it is a little simpler, that it isn't. I don't know. I guess I would say not as strategic. It's more about just going in there and busting face, as opposed to worrying about making sure I get all the right CC, make sure I have my wards set up everywhere, and so on and so forth. It seems like it's a little more direct.
I think it definitely makes play for like supportive style champions a lot more fun. Like that is definitely something that they did. They made supportive style characters have a lot more to do in terms of just having more items to purchase and having a real presence in team fight, other than just having a few sort of CC abilities or big abilities that sort of define their role in team fights. But yeah, there's definitely a lot more to find out about Strife, including an interesting pet system, which sort of incorporates a little bit of masteries combined with summoner spells from League of Legends. I highly suggest you check out the full article on MMOBomb.com for all those details. But we're going to have to move on here to our final little article to talk about tonight, which deals with Hawken. And we haven't talked about Hawken in quite some time. They just recently had a large update, the Ascension update. Originally it was supposed to go live on the 5th. And actually will go live by the time this video goes up on the 10th. And it's going to bring some sweeping changes, a lot of revamps to things like the tuning mechanisms and granting player progression and how players get new mechs. And Jason, did you actually play Hawken at all?
I did not yet, but I saw some really nice videos.
Well, we're gonna have to play this again for I think Bomb Live, because I'd like to really see. Yeah, I'd like to see what the updates are actually, how they feel, because essentially they're making it so that players can get new mechs very quickly, or much quicker, I should say, than before. As players level up now, as their pilot levels up, they'll unlock new mechs, which they just get permanently, no need to purchase, and I think that was a big thing that players had an issue with, is purchasing mechs before. And then also, when they finish leveling up a mech, they can use the excess experience from that mech to continue leveling up other mechs, which I think that's a great feature. It makes it so that you don't feel like you have to grind different mechs. You can just play what you're good at until another mech is maxed out, and then you just play that one.
And the first thing I thought of when I heard about this was like World of Tanks, which is, if you know how that goes, if you have like a tier 4 tank, and you've got it all maxed out, you get all the stuff in it. If you want to get, say, if you got like a tier 6, you got your Ion, you got to buy a tier 5, you got to buy that, you got to suck in that for a while, because you don't have all the gear, you don't have everything you need, you don't have, or you're fighting against higher tier tanks, so that just stinks. So you got to play that for a long time to get to that 6. So the way it sounds like in this, so you can play your 4 like forever if you like it, and then eventually buy your 6 straight up.
Yeah, and they also are sort of like revamping how a lot of the mechs are balanced. So I don't even know how tiers work in Hawken anymore. Previously, they were just based on sort of like light, medium, and heavy. Heavy being like the slowest but the most armored, having the most HP, the most damage. Whereas the light's really quick, has a lot of like fast striking weapons, etc. So they've revamped a lot of that. They've revamped a lot of tuning, granting bonuses to certain types of mechs in certain areas and, performance, etc. And it's supposedly making it all just a lot more accessible, a lot more progressive in nature, and doesn't really, sort of reduces the amount of grind that players can expect. They also added a new map called Last Echo, which is a jungle map, which I have to say, Hawken's maps are quite impressive. I think Hawken has some of the best designed maps in terms of like the amount of stuff that's crammed into each tiny space on that map. If you really look at the detail, it's quite amazing. They put a lot into it, especially since you gotta remember you're like a stompy mech. You're moving around very quickly. It's not often that you get to stop and smell the industrial roses, if you will.
I think that's the sewer system.
That's the sewer system. That's the industrial roses.
That's the industrial roses.
Oh man, that's perfect. Industrial roses. That's going to be the name of this one.
Yep.
All right, so definitely check that out if you're interested in knowing the new Hawken updates. One of the best things about the update, though, has to be the fact that they added in alpha support for the Oculus Rift. So if you happen to have an Oculus Rift for some reason, you can check that out in Hawken and enjoy looking around your cockpit and stomping around and feeling like you're there.
I thought you were going to say if you happen to have one, send it to you.
Oh, yeah, definitely send it to me. No. I've gotten a couple of chances to try out the Oculus Rift, and it was quite amazing. So if you have it, you can do it in Hawken. If not, you wait for the Oculus Rift to be released as a financial product. Hopefully that's sometime next year, and I'm going to be one of the first buyers because I cannot wait for that. Cannot wait.
Should put it on the MMO Bomb expense account.
Oh yeah, just right there. It's gonna be. We have to review it. It has to be done. It has to be. Alrighty, so let's go ahead then and move on to the weekly bombs. Now, I have a da-bomb and an A-bomb that I want to give, beginning with Gearbox for the da-bomb and ending with Gearbox for the A-bomb. So, Gearbox said that, hey, we're going to assist Blackbird Interactive in making a true homeworld RTS successor. Blackbird Interactive was originally making a game called Hardware Shipbreakers, and some of them were the original creators of the RTS Homeworld, which is a space station / spaceship RTS that came out in the early 2000s and late 90s, and it was quite good. So they're making a Homeworld, Hardware Shipbreakers, which is a ground-based RTS. And Gearbox, who had purchased the rights to Homeworld after THQ went bankrupt, decided to lend their backing, financial support, and the IP so that they can make a true successor to the series, which is great. Props to Gearbox. Thanks for doing that. I think that's really awesome. Kudos to you. Golf clap, what have you. Now, I'm going to go ahead and give an A-bomb to you guys, though, because now you're deciding to make the game not free-to-play, but instead buy-to-play, which is big news. This was just recently posted on the website, and it honestly is a big of a bummer. I mean, I understand why. They basically said that they were going free to play in the first place because of the fact that they lacked financial budget. But now that they have it, they're going to go and opt for a buy to play. I can't hate them for it. I just wish it was still free to play. That's just, I mean, come on. I'm a little bit biased, right?
What bugged me the most was that in the way he said it, he's like, oh, now we don't need it. Like, oh, you know, it's not good. We just had to resort to it.
That could be. I mean, I'm not going to, like, read into everything how he said exactly, because he was pretty short. It was a Twitter post. I mean, come on. I'm not going to make a huge discussion of a Twitter post. Fair. But certainly, it was just a little bit, it was like a bummer. I was just a little bummed.
Yeah.
That's just it. Aww. It was a little sad.
Or Spunkify.
Spunkify's a little sad, you know.
Lost his free-to-play Shipbreakers.
I know. Because, like, there's not very many RTSs coming out that are free-to-play. We have that, we had that, and then we had Command & Conquer, and then we had End of Nations, but, you know, that became the MOBA.
I don't think we're ever going to have End of Nations, whatever it is.
Whatever it is, it's never coming. Jason, what was your da-bomb, A-bomb?
I'm going to give an A-bomb to Star Wars The Old Republic.
Really? What have they done this time?
Well, they put out this little video, this teaser video of some sort of like space combat teaser. It's the sound of, it's an audio of some Jedi who's giving a transmission, like the Empire is moving or whatever. You get kind of a grainy footage. And
he's so nonchalant about that. The Empire is moving. Whatever. Like.
Well, yeah. And then you get like 3.5 seconds of what looks like actual in-game footage, which on the site that I read about this, you had like half the people in the comments going, "Oh, it totally looks like they're taking it off rails," and they got half the other people going, "No, it's still on rails. It's still whatever." A lot of people think it's going to be a PvP thing, the way they're talking about it. My thought is, look, SWTOR, Bioware, your game was a little hyped. You had a lot of promises that you kind of weren't so great at. Don't be so cutesy with your marketing anymore. Tell us what the damn thing is.
They want to act like they're still relevant.
Well, they're still relevant. They're still drawing a good number of people, and they're still, financially successful. But they're not going to make any friends by having this thing, which, promotes discussion, it's good marketing, whatever. But now, like we said, they show this little bit of thing.
It would have,
half the people are going to be disappointed no matter what, because they think it's one thing or another.
There would have been better discussion had they just shown whether or not it was real PvP or not.
Just something that says, experience space PvP for the first time, and then show a bunch of stuff blowing up or whatever, But now they're trying to be all,
So if they're going to be like cutesy like this, that makes me think, I wonder if they're building hype and then it's just going to be like really subpar. And they're like, well, we just built hype for it like this. Because otherwise, if we actually showed what it was, people would be like, oh, that's terrible.
There you go, yeah. More space combat on rails.
More space combat. We've added new space missions.
No, they'd rather people play for a week and get pissed off because it wasn't what they thought than no one play it at all.
Yeah, they're going to make everybody download those 13 gigs or however. How many gigs is that game?
It's like 25
gigs. That's 25 gigs that I wish my hard drive had never experienced.
I'm glad mine never did.
Oh,
mine no longer does.
Mine experienced the pay-to-play version of it.
Yes, mine too.
Yeah. All right, and finally, Kevin, what is your da-bomb?
I'm giving a da-bomb to Riot for actually something that I found really, really impressive. They managed to steal, however they pulled it off, they picked up EVE Online's lead designer and brought him over to join the Riot team to work on League of Legends.
They got him drunk, and then they took some pictures, and then they gave him blackmail.
Whatever it is, I have to applaud them because, personally, I find League is getting a little stale. Yes, I love the new champions they bring out, but the game itself hasn't changed much. I feel like bringing in someone who, Eve is highly successful, and it managed to still bring new stuff and change and just grow so constantly that I think this gives League just avenues to expand the game into other sections.
I wonder if this means Morello will get the boot. No.
I don't know. But I thought it was a really impressive thing to do, and yeah. So the bombs to Riot.
What this means now is, because they're going to want their League of Legends battles to be just like an Eve. So it's going to be 2,000 on 2,000.
Oh man, that's going to be awesome, and there's going to be lag like the whole
500
time.
lanes.
There's going to be like tie-dye where everything slows down up to 90%. So in order for you to play 2,000 players and champions in League, you're going to have you're going to make a spell, and then 6 minutes later, it's going to cast a spell.
Yes. Will be so good. I can't even say that with a straight face. But no, I think it will lead to some great design choices for the game.
Yeah, I'm really interested. As an Eve player too, I'm kind of curious to see what happens to Eve. It's not free to play, but it's sort of like that's a big person to move from one big game to another big game. It's not like Eve was dying. Like Eve has actually been growing recently, So that's the second largest pay to play MMO.
And I think that's probably why he was able to leave, because he felt like it was in strong hands. They knew what they were doing and where they were going, so he's probably like, it's in good place. Let's see what I can do at this other place.
Well, certainly he is a very smart man, because Eve is a very smart game, so hopefully Riot puts good use to him and doesn't use him for customer service. Member bombs for this week, we've got several of them. It's TJ right there. I remember we had a discussion about his name before. He says, "The bomb to my carpet for catching my graceful girlfriend during her first attempt at Amnesia. I don't know why she was standing up while playing Amnesia, or whether or not she was wearing the Oculus Rift, and that's why she fell while playing Amnesia, but it's TJ. I'm glad you have carpet that is apparently from 1970 and can catch your girlfriend."
Fluffy.
So good on you, bro. Now, Jason, why don't you take the next one here?
Oh, good. This is from XCrookedX.
I thought we decided it was just going to be crooked, that the X's were just for show.
If we pronounce Alchemist we got to pronounce his X's.
This is true.
All right. He says, I got a bomb for EA, which kind of shocks me right off the start, but I'll keep reading.
Mm-hmm.
In particular for the Humble Origin bundle. They gave us some awesome games for dirt cheap while helping to raise over $10 million for charity. Good for EA.
Aren't they sweet?
Are we sure this is EA, like the world's worst game TR company? Really? I'm impressed, actually. I didn't know they were capable of doing something right.
I think in the first part of the year, they have to do something we hate, and then in the second half of the year, we kind of forget about it, and they do something we like.
This year
it was SimCity, and the year before was like Mass Effect 3. The year before was something else, I don't know, probably. But
I wonder what next year's going to be. I'm gonna bet on the new Sims. The new Sims comes out next year.
No, they learn from the lesson.
It's not online only. They learn from the lesson. It's not online only. So it could be something else. And maybe it's Mirror's Edge 2. Maybe it's that, because they kept in the terrible combat. But that's a whole other story.
Dragon Age is until Q3 next year. So all right.
They have plenty of opportunities to make us mad at them.
They'll find it. They'll find it.
Kevin.
Sailor Naruto 39. I went to A-Bomb, open world action combat games, Terra in parentheses. Open world doesn't seem to flow very well with action combat style gameplay. Games like Terra and Raider Z felt so slow and didn't flow right with me. Unfortunately, instant-based Vindictus seems to allow for controlled chaos that promotes action, making it more fast-paced. I want an open world action game that actually feels right.
The way he describes it, open world action combat games, Terra, it seems like he's copying from a Wikipedia page. And he puts it in there. He's I don't know how to describe this game, so here's the English description from Wikipedia, and then we put that right there.
He could have just said like Terra.
Like Terra. Yeah. He just puts it in.
Maybe he didn't want me to read the Terra and the Vindictus thing. I don't know. Maybe that was it. I read it. I read it. He
read it sometime. He goes to Reddit and Reddits. So yeah, so he likes the pace. Vindictus does have very much more of a sort of combo stylish pace, which I think would be quite nice to have in action MMOs, but you got to remember those games, you're dealing with a lot less people in one area, more controlled in terms of what you could do and what you can interact with and what have you. But I would definitely agree. I want to see a game where I can launch myself and someone up into the air and start doing amazing combos with them in the air before kicking them back down the earth. I think that would be pretty awesome. And I'll take the last bomb, an A-bomb. It's a D-bomb rather. From Crazy65, or he's Crazy65. 65.
Crazy.
There's an extra E there. He says, I'd like to give a da-bomb to SOE and PlanetSide 2. The dog with fleas has been getting flea baths, and now PlanetSide 2 is playable again. There's still a ton of fleas, but not as much as before. Can't wait to hop inside a Vanguard and kill some Elmos for the freedom of Space America. New conglomerate for the win.
Well, there's the issue right there. It doesn't surprise me that New Conglomerate has fleas inside their vehicles.
Oh, yeah. They don't shower and shave.
Hey, I play NC. Stop hating.
I play all of them. I'm a rainbow player. I play all colors.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've been pretty honest about some of the issues they've had with that game, and they're definitely trying to.
One of their recent patches, they were like, "Hey, we heard you. We're focusing a lot on performance." Like that's I think a recent announcement of theirs was.
Yeah, to the point that they're not going to do any new content because they're so focused on getting the performance better.
Yeah, there you go, guys. So if you guys are complaining about PlanetSide 2, now whenever someone complains about it, I'm gonna bring that up and be like, no, look what they're doing. Yeah, it may have taken them a little bit, but they're doing it now. Be happy.
Yeah, I mean that's
I don't know if I'll be that forceful when I say it, but
be happy. Damn it.
Be happy. It's gotta happen. Bah. All right. So question of the week last week was, what genre would you like to see an MMO based around? So horror, sci-fi, what have you. Ex-Human, he says, I really don't mind good fantasy or sci-fi MMOs, but man, all the mediocre developers turned it too cliche. What I would be interested to see is vice versa colonial age. I'm not really sure what vice versa colonial age is. Or
so you start like...
You start as like the British? Or
and go backwards or something? I don't know.
Or backwards Western, he says, with Native Americans as protagonists fighting for the land and home. Okay.
I think I see what he means. He says he doesn't want you to. He says it's so generic. You're the big conquering guys, and you fight the little natives or whatever. He says I want to be a native and fight the big guys or something.
That's true. Also, ancient Celts or Celts rather. Celts. Yeah. I read it right the first time, and then my brain was like, no, that's terrible. Read it again. Ancient Celts, Greece, Rome, Egypt, Scythia, Assyria, Babylon, Persia, India, etc. would also make a good theme for an MMO.
Well, there was the one Roman one, and that was...
Oh, there's Roman there? Wait,
no. Are we talking about that really, really, really bad one with that we were all crying so hard we were laughing?
Not the sex one. I'm talking about...
Not that one. Okay.
I'm talking about Gods and Heroes.
Oh, okay.
Oops. Yeah, there's a medieval one coming out soon. What was that? Gloria Vindictus. That is one that's coming out soon, or soonish. It's indie developed. It's going to be free to play, and it's medieval based with a real weight behind it and everything like that. Kind of reminds me of Mountain Blade, but in the MMO form. So you can check that out if you're looking for something a little bit more realistic and historical based. Richard, the next individual. Jason, why don't you tell us what Richard had to say?
Okay, I'd like a superhero MMO that isn't a piece of crap.
That's really blunt.
Apparently he's not a fan of City of Heroes, DC Universe Online, Champions Online, or Marvel Heroes.
Well, hang on. Keep going.
Okay, and with more powers. City of Heroes Villains wasn't too bad and had some originality, but it was still subpar and got shut down. DCUO can be fun sometimes, but I feel like they can do a lot better. An actual action MMO with free-form travel and open world, that'd be the best.
I don't know. DCUO
I would say that is kind of like DCUO.
Freeform travel is definitely DCUO. Like,
now, the issue that I'd certainly when playing DCUO is there's no reason to go outside. After you get to level 30, it's just, the city is just empty, which is unfortunate. It'd be neat if they could have some sort... Yeah, I know it's cliche nowadays, but have like dynamic events, something like that, where,
something to get players out and about.
Lex Luthor is, assaulting some, the Daily Planet or whatever, so go out there and stop him,
Now, this got me thinking really quick. You know what would be awesome? Is if they had an MMO as superhero based, but with destructible environments. Can you imagine?
I was just thinking that's what SOE's next game has to be.
That's what it really like. Can you imagine kicking someone so hard with your superpower in midair that they fly and they crash through a building?
Yes.
And then you just fly through the building after them? That would be amazing. I want that MMO.
That has to be what they do next, yeah.
Because that's a big thing that's missing from superhero MMOs. Whenever you watch a superhero MMO, you always see a guy crashing through multiple walls and getting, punched through a bunch of stuff and then coming back. I want that kind of level of destructibility. When I fight a super villain, I want to be punched and go through a bunch of walls. Basically, I just want to be punched and have a lot of shit blow up around me as I go through a bunch of walls.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I want. That's what
So
It's just
voxel heroes.
Spunkify wants to be abused.
I want to be abused when I'm wearing spandex.
This is going too far.
Yeah, because I'm gonna be a superhero. That's
Okay, that made it a lot better. I'm okay now.
Yeah. Who's next? This last one?
Death is near.
Yeah.
I would love to see a cyberpunk MMO. I just love the cyberpunk universe with games like Deus Ex, whatever.
Cells?
Hard Reset, the upcoming Cyberpunk 2070, and even non-video game media such as Cyberpunk 2020, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, Blade Runner, and Snow Crash. I don't think there has been a good Cyberpunk MMO. I mean, come on, there are some steampunk MMOs like City of Steam and the upcoming Black Gold, so why not do the polar opposite? With instead a lot of steam-powered things, it will be high-tech based. That's all I want.
You know, I was trying to think of a really good sci-fi MMO that wasn't based on the spaceships, and I can't really think of any that were in the past that I got shut down. I mean, you had of course the original Star Wars Galaxies, but he's talking more along the lines of he's talking about cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk, more so than sci-fi.
Rather. Yeah.
Yeah, well, there is. I mean, Shadowrun Online is in beta, so there's at least that.
That would be the one that would fit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely
That's one.
And we don't even know how MMO-ish it is. Like we haven't really seen gameplay.
Yeah, there's this other weird game I've looked at. It's by some French studio. It's called the Realm Under. What was it? I'm trying to remember what it's called, but it's also got this kind of dystopia, cyberpunkish near future feel to it. The Noise Under. That's what it's called. I don't know where it's at in terms of development.
The Noise Under.
The Noise Under. But that's something you guys can take a look at. It's interesting. Definitely niche.
It looks like it attempted to have a Kickstarter. Back in
probably.
April,
Who didn't have a Kickstarter?
Oh,
is that what happened?
Indiegogo.
Okay.
Indiegogo. It raised $670 out of a $500,000 goal.
Well then, okay, never mind.
So I'm not really sure at what point in the development they are at, but there is a website in case you guys want to check it out. It looks currently like they're still in the early development process as it appears.
Very early.
Yes. Last update was in July, so take that as you will, but there are a couple of games for you to check out if you want to see if any of those games would tickle your fancy. Death is near. But the question of this week is, have you ever been to an event dedicated to video games? And what was it like? And this includes events where there's tournaments, LAN events, conventions. I'll even include board games and other games related to video games. Maybe a game that's a board game that is also a video game. Stuff like that. Because I went to PAX, I thought, hey, there's a lot of people here. I'm sure some of our viewers have been to events like that, either in Europe or in the U.S. So share your experiences. What did you enjoy about it? What did you do? Did you touch a lot of sweaty people's hands?
Did you get hepatitis?
Did you get hepatitis C from giving someone a handshake? High five.
Yeah.
Has your life been ruined by getting hepatitis C, by getting a high five? Let us know. Call this number to be on our talk show. That's what it reminds me of. Alrighty, guys. Well, thank you all for sticking around for episode 83 here of the Free-to-Play Podcast. I'm glad that I've been able to navigate you on your journey through our PAX news as well as our weekly topics of discussion, and that's including punching babies.
Hey, only if I'm paid.
Extra points for sticking around for punching babies, guys. But that's going to wrap up our show. This is the point in the show where everybody gives a little spiel of where you can find them on Twitter and other social media outlets. I think Jason Winter just started an Instagram account, so Jason, you can give that information out as well. Why don't we start with you, Jason? What is that Instagram account name?
You lie. I haven't started an Instagram.
You hear that, guys? It's You Lie. He started an Instagram.
Instagram.uli. No, I may. I've been thinking about it. I got some pictures from QuakeCon that I've been meaning to put up somewhere.
That's actually a good idea, to use Instagram to post pictures
for
from
convention
events.
pictures. Yeah.
That's actually. Look at this. It started out as just a little jest, a little joke, and now it's coming into a fully fledged idea. So,
but in the meantime, you can find me on Twitter at WinterInformal. And I'm not pushing the streaming so much anymore because I'm having some technical issues. So
what?
Much I'm going to do on that.
How many Twitter followers are you up to?
1,139.
Oh, nice. What was it when we started? 1,000?
It was around I got number 1,000 like almost that first night we did it. So.
Oh, well, now we're up to 1,100. So nicely done there, I have to say.
Thanks.
And Kevin.
At no social media K.
Kevin, when's the last time you actually tweeted out?
Like right now.
I'm doing it right now. I'm like, everybody's like, oh, this is like the one time during the week I tweet.
I do randomly, like, every once in a while. It's because no one ever, like, sends anything to me, so it's like, oh, I kind of forget that I have it. But I randomly remember and post just, like, weird thoughts that pop in my head, so it's fun.
Get a profile image. Get rid of the egg, man.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah.
Oh, man, he's got an egg, guys. You got to make an image for him. Somebody suggest an image for Kevin.
If someone sends me an image, I will totally use it.
Or just suggest an image. You know, what do you think best would describe Kevin?
That's the alternate question of the week for the viewers.
Oh, yeah. Alternate question is, what should his image be?
Yep.
That's your alternate one. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in for the episode of the podcast of MMOBomb.com. I've been your host, Spunkify, and for all of us here, we thank you for watching / listening, depending on how you're actually participating in this podcast. Till next time, guys. Spunkify out. Later.